become champions. Celtic way, wait for the ball from side to side, and until they try to hide, the way for the ball from front to back, attack, 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 67, and then he's a bursman, the buzzing in the thousands, you see the bug. Good evening, welcome to Celtic Rumours TV, a Bawz and Bovril podcast, episode number 131. Hello, evening. It's just me, Mark, tonight. Paul's going away on holiday tomorrow, so I'm here tonight, and Terence will be joining us. Bobby Sutherland will be joining as well. We'll get him on shortly. I'm not used to doing the intro myself, so I'll just really be catching up on everything Celtic, the tour of Japan, what's happening with transfers and stuff like that, what guys are talking about on the live chat, things like that. First things first, the last stream we done, I mean, I think we got to something like 960 odd views on it. It blew me away, really did. Every time I was checking it up, it was going up and up and up. So everybody that listened to that really, from the bottom of my heart, can't say thanks enough. It really blew me away. We picked up 20 odd subs and everything. So thanks very much for that. Our forum, www.celticrumours.co.uk. The link to that and everything else is in the description box below. Everybody's more than welcome on that. A few shout outs to the guys for the forum. Mikey, I don't know if Mikey's listening in tonight. Well, Richie, Tim Alloy, Buzz, B. John, United Ireland, a Glasgow Green. Going to who's in the chat already tonight. Bobby's there, he'll be coming on. Big Jabber's there. Evening Jabber. Grot Bags is in. Brian, it's nice to see you, Brian. Big Campsy as well. Jerry, Justin, nice to see you, mate. Rod, nice to see you there as well, but thanks very much. What are you laughing at? But I think that's really basically how we'll just go on, mate. Terence, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. And yourself?
I'm fine.
Good stuff.
Put the link out for Bobby there. Well, first things first, Terence, we were sitting chatting on the Skype and that while. Evening, Michael, nice to see you there. We were sitting chatting while watching the Celtic game yesterday. What was your thoughts on that?
It was some shite, wasn't it? In fairness. Like, I mean, I'll just be very blunt about it. For me yesterday, I know it's the first game, I know it's our second game, I know it's a friendly, and I know it's all that, but there were glaring deficiencies. And certain players for me, like I said it before, that Kobayashi is nowhere near good enough to be a Celtic player. Like he's at his same level there. This is back playing against the J League, and he looked lost. He every time he got the ball, he either put someone under pressure. He wasn't able to defend well. He was kind of muscled off the ball. I thought, for me, Mark, there was 3 or 4 players, and they looked very, very weak there. Like anyone who thinks Awata is anything to do with the defending, as in either centre back or right back, I don't know. They obviously know a lot more about football than I do. For me, he's either midfield or he doesn't play.
But I think that was just a needs must there. Terence really went it. We didn't have a fully fit right back. But I was more surprised that he didn't just put Hatate in there, because he played there for us when he first came in and done well.
Oh yeah, and I agree with you, Mark. But what I would be saying is people have said that Awata is a centre back. Like Awata looks about 5'8". Like I hear him thinks he's 5'10". If he's 5'10", then I'm 5'8". Like, and I'm not 5'8". I'm a long way from 5'8". Like,
I don't know why.
Yeah, exactly. He's not a centre back, and just like I mean, even as I remember we discussed it, I thought for someone like Haksabanovic, he had a very poor game as well. He struggled. I mean, in the second half, like I mean, basically defensively, the first goal that Joe Hart let in was shocking. But like I thought midfield, they were decent enough. I thought Hatate had a fine game, but that's nearly a given with Hatate. He's so good. His pass for one of the goals was sensational. I thought Abada looked really good. Obviously, clearly Maeda looked good. But for me, it was defensively where it kind of stood out, and it was a real shock because you were kind of going like every time they got the ball, and it was a simple like right to left cross or left to right to left, whichever side. It was a cross, like it seemed to cross 2 or 3 people, and no one seemed to deal with it. And like I'd say, Greg Taylor was having an awful time in fullback in the sense that he didn't seem to be getting much cover. They seemed to be continually going down his side because Kobayashi was on that side. And he seemed to be lost. I really did. I thought he was lost at centre back.
Yeah, Bobby.
Aye.
Aye.
No,
Thanks very much for coming on, bud.
Aye, I'm murdering that button and carry on, so I thought I'd let them talk. Let them talk now and say my piece when it's my turn.
Just evening, David. Thanks for joining us. See this with the Polish centre back. What is it?
Marquee or something.
Aye, well,
yeah.
Paul obviously keeps up with the kind of Polish game. That he messaged me just before we came on in that, and he said that the Legia manager confirmed in his press conference that Norowski will not be in the selection for tomorrow's league opener, as his departure is imminent. The Galatasaray offer is €3.5 million plus €2 million in add-ons, and Celtic is €5 million with a 20% sell-on. And Paul says himself, he's reading on the Polish websites, and that's a done deal.
Hope so.
Aye. I've heard as much myself today, to be honest. I think that might be over the line already, to be honest. For the talk, usually you know what it's like. You like some deals, you hear a wee bit about it, then it goes quiet. You hear a wee bit about it, goes quiet. This seems to have just popped up from nowhere and it's done. Do you know what I mean? That's the ones that usually happen. So,
aye. I mean, I see it in the forum every year and stuff like that, and it's the same thing. It's like Celtic's probably watched or been interested, if you want to go with what the press would say, in 20 different centre backs this summer. They've maybe got as far to talk to agents, they'll maybe go as far to talk to clubs, but they'll never come to anything apart from maybe like the one deal.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? So see all the stuff in the papers, and everybody goes on about, the papers are all talking garbage. They sensationalise it with saying, it's like, I think, was it James Forrester wrote an article about it? It's a terminology they kind of use, and it's like, a bid is imminent. I mean, what does that mean, a bid's imminent? It's like there's a bid imminent, Bobby, for me for my PlayStation 5. Do you know what I mean? That's just pure it's like, garbage.
It's usually there that if they're talking to, as you say, maybe 15, 20 different centre-backs at one time, is a bid imminent for every one of them then? Do you know what I mean? That's the way the way they put it out like that is, a bid's imminent, purely because maybe an agent's contacted another agent. But we might be interested. It gets leaked to it. Bang, that's it. It gets blown up. Do you know what I mean? And I think that happens probably more often than it should. But that's kind of where we are now. Social media and all that, isn't it? So
they're just all Twitter, and they're all just battling for likes and retweets and stuff like that. It's still like that Romano, is it Fabrizio Romano?
Fabrizio Romano.
I mean, why is he spending his time on Twitter doing that? What does he gain out of doing that? Is he...
Don't get me wrong, see, to be honest with you, when it comes to him, he seems to be bang on 9 times out of 10, by the way. It's almost as if his word is final, because there's no very often that he doesn't confirm something that it doesn't usually go over the line. Do you know what I mean? But whether he...
It's very close. If it's very close, if it's not over the line with him, to be fair. I'd agree with Bobby there on that one. Like,
yeah, isn't he? Aye.
The one thing I will say though, Mark, is
what did he gain out of sitting on Twitter? Even gain out, I mean, because no matter, even the stuff they get right, they still get abuse out of it. It's constant abuse, do you know what I mean? It's sort of, what's your source, how do you, stuff like that. And I wonder about people on Twitter that are at that kind of high level of a profile, what they actually gain out of sitting there and trying to, I mean, they're only gain out maybe bits of gossip that they hear as well. Again, no everything they hear will come to fruition.
Just maybe followers, Mark, is it? I don't know. I don't even know that.
Must be part of their job or party.
He's also got a very decent sized YouTube channel as well. So
All right, I didn't
He's
know
on
that.
YouTube as well, so I don't know if it's a kind of linkage from that to that. And then, do you know what I mean? Because I've actually subscribed to him just recently, purely just because he's usually bang on. And I don't know how many followers subscribers he's got on YouTube, but it's a decent number as well. So I don't know if it's a case of that feeds into that and vice versa. Do you know what I mean? Like, for his numbers and his views, and I don't know. But
It's all part of building up your brand on social media and stuff like that, innit?
I think so, mate. I think that's his thing.
So did you?
I have
Did you
to say,
watch
Mark,
the game?
sorry, I was going to say, I
Yeah.
have to say, Mark, I have to say, if Celtic have gone for this guy and it is the done deal, I'm glad they've done it so quickly after watching that match the other day, because it was very clear that the likes of, as I say, Kobayashi, even Welsh, Liam Scales, like if Starfelt or if Carter Vickers is out for a while, you've got to put one of them with Starfelt. And that's a scary thought. That's a scary thought, to having to put one of those guys in an SPL game. As I know Rob has put it up there a second ago, and yeah, they're maybe halfway through their season, but you could clearly see the distinct difference between the levels of the two teams. Like, they were running Celtic ragged at the end of it. Certainly halfway through the second half, but like, would you be happy with Starfelt and any of those three bar Vickers? You'd be panicking watching them play a game for Celtic in the SPL.
But I mean, you can't put that Joe Hart first goal. You can't put that down to.
Oh no, that's Joe Hart. That's Joe Hart. 100%. That's Joe Hart.
The Starfelt fumble that he done as well, costing us. Was that the third goal that cost us? You can't.
Aye.
That's nothing to do with fitness. And let's not be kidding as well. See, it was how many of the players that finished that game yesterday are going to be first team players for Celtic next season? There was a lot of youngsters. See, when we collapsed, there was a lot of youngsters in that on the pitch. I'm not really that bothered about it that much.
I would judge it the first half, though, Mark. The first half, the majority of the players in that team, if there was a match next week with Celtic, would have probably majority would have probably taken the field. If you taking injuries into account. Do you know, taking injuries into account, the majority, and some of them look like a duck out of water. Like, they really did. Like, they just didn't look like as I said, centre back position at the minute. If that is the case, and that guy is coming to Celtic, I'm delighted it's done so quickly. There's no noise about it, because for me, one of the biggest problems Celtic have is if they go for a player and they're thinking about him, and then some other team in Europe goes like a Galatasaray or like a Benfica or Porto, for argument's sake, 9 times out of 10 Celtic will probably lose out, because they might say, you know, there's a bit more money, or like there's talks of that goalkeeper that Celtic were losing out to him, the Croatian goalkeeper, that he's gone to. Where is he?
He actually went, but
yeah, he's meant to be going to Al Nassr now. By the way, that's been hijacked.
He's supposed to be going over there to Gata.
He was supposedly, if it's true that we were looking at him, it was a case of he chose Fenerbahce, or his agent chose Fenerbahce, but it wasn't done yet. And I seen something online a few hours ago today that he's Al Nassr are ready to blow them out the water and hijack that deal.
No, it's not that as well, Bobby.
So,
I'd say that a lot of people were saying it was a done deal, that it was going to Turkey, but it was just what we're talking about. You looked up on Google and it was the deal agreed, it's about to be finalised, it's about to be rubber stamped, Celtic miss out on this player, but there was nothing actually official in it that he was going there. Evening, Rebel, mate, thanks very much for coming in tonight again, pal.
but see,
That's a good point. I know about Rebel saying there. I said that as well on the last podcast. You can tell, like, these are players that have been on Celtic's radar for a while. The signings that we've made so far, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Which doesn't mean that they're no good players, but it's not to say that Rodgers hasn't okayed the deals, but I mean, it's obvious this is probably players that would maybe have come in even if Ange had still been there. It's part of the kind of Celtic model. Mark Lowell's digging these players up and that, I reckon.
Aye. I think, see, the worrying thing is when, like Ter was saying there, if we're interested in a player, but then a Galatasaray or a Fenerbahce or something come in, and that's it, we don't have a chance. How can we honestly say that we're hoping to bring in 2 or 3 marquee type signings if we can't compete with Galatasaray or Fenerbahce, though? Because if you want to go out and spend 8, 9, 10 million on one player, but then Galatasaray or Fenerbahce compete with you, can I compete with them? Then who can you realistically get in for good money then?
That's a good
yeah.
point, Bobby, when you say it, put it that way, bud.
Do you
But
know what I
they
mean?
were what?
It's like, where do you know what I mean? Like,
What's our market? What is our actual market that we can shop in? I seen something on Twitter. Was it Twitter had done it? It was like a kind of breakdown, Paul. Sorry, Bobby. And it was a breakdown of like this so-called, like, if we go for like back spending like players at 6 to 10 million and then like 8 to 12 million.
Mhm.
And he went back and he looked at the players like Celtic had been linked with in the last couple of windows and that went for these kind of prices. He says, and none of them's done anything. He said,
No.
one of them hadn't kicked a ball all season or something like that. And that's what the guy's point was. What is the market that Celtic actually are comfortable to find to shop in? And it's
look at it as, again, like you see, we go in for a player. We go in for a player, and it's like, right, we're interested in him. Oh, but again, as I say, Fenerbahce or Galatasaray are interested. He chooses to go there. He doesn't kick his arse. That doesn't mean that if he chose to come to us that he maybe couldn't have been good. So it's like for a case of like, oh, we'll offer you 30 grand. I'm going to take 60 grand a week at Fenerbahce. Right? Doesn't he play? Gets injured, whatever. But if he came here, he could have won trophies and had a good career. Do you know what I mean? I don't get it.
But the one for me though, Bobby, is the way I meant to try put it. If I mightn't explain myself properly, was the way this centre back is done. It's apparently done and dusted. There was no mention of him.
Yep.
My thing is when if Celtic are talking about mentioning, say the Swiss lad or say the Croatian keeper or something like that, it seems to be a case that it's mentioned for a couple of weeks, rather than the ones I find where Celtic get done are the ones that are done before we don't even know that there's a mention.
Exactly. I know that's it, and I couldn't agree anymore. It seems to be that you get, and I think I've spoke to Mark about this before, and spoke to other people about it before. Sometimes I think the media, and especially the Scottish media, they get a sniff of Celtic, like maybe looking at a player at 10, 15 million, and the way they put it out in the media, that ends their chances there and then, because then it's like, Celtic fancy him, so do we though, like, let's blow them out the water, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying as well. 100% agree with you, Bobby. 100%.
Yep, and it's just, I mean, this is like every fans, you always fall into that trap. It's like, oh, Rodgers coming back. Well, we're talking about a £35 million budget, right? So you're always, so straight away your head's in the clouds thinking, oh, maybe we're going to get 2 or 3 players at 7, 8, 9 million each. This is going to be great. But if we can't actually physically go out and buy these players without a team in the lower for half of the Premier League or a team for Europe that you would like to think Celtic are still a bigger club than, can just come in and say, nah, there's double what they're offering, there's double what they're offering wages as well. So, like...
But see, even if Rodgers...
Aye, on you go, mate.
Oh, sorry, Bobby, I thought you were finished, bud.
No, on you go.
See even if Celtic have got 35 million and then they're adding on Jota's money and stuff like that, it doesn't mean we need to spend it.
No.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, people see like that goalkeeper we're talking about. People were saying, "Oh, they wanted £7 million for him."
Mm-hmm.
People are that's us. Then we'll not be getting him. Evening, you, Dave. Thanks very much for coming in, mate. That's no Paul. That's Terence. I don't know if Terence will be pleased with that. There, he's calling you Paul there, Ter.
Fuck's sake, I'm not here.
Another guy's Bobby that's usually in the live chat there. You, Dave. Thanks for coming in again. But what was I talking about? But see, like that goalkeeper, right? See if Rodgers has said, "Look, I've assessed the squad. I'm quite happy with if we can get rid of. I mean, we're not going through the list again. We know the players that we can let go and it's not going to rock the boat whatsoever. But right, see if Rodgers come in and says, "All I'm looking for is a centre back, a goalkeeper, and a winger to replace Jota." So what's wrong with going out and spending £7 million on a keeper?
Not a thing.
Do you get what I mean? Right, we go and spend £7 million on a keeper. Say this is the Polish guy coming in, that's the centre back at $5 million, and we buy, say we even go and splash some cash and buy a left winger at $10 million. That's only about £20 million we've spent. 22 million. We don't need to go out. There's Paul in the chat there. We don't need to go out and spend the 35 million just because we've got that money. And it's all about, I mean, I was talking to Mikey in a quick call today, and we were talking about it, and he was saying what you said earlier, Terence, about of Carter Vickers isn't in the defence. We need to, but see, as I said as well, see apart from Cal McGregor, right? There isn't a player at Celtic that can be improved on. I'm not meaning that, but do you know what I mean? But I would take a hell of a lot of money. But even down to AJ, do you know what I mean? You know, I love him to know Carter Vickers, but we could, if we sell Carter Vickers this summer for whatever he went for, there is players out there that would be better than Carter Vickers if we could afford them. And that's, do you know what I mean?
Well, Juranovic is a prime example.
Aye.
Juranovic is a prime example. When he was being sold, most people were like, "Oh my God, this is what are we going to? We're going to be." With the great respect, everyone's like, "God, it's going to be Ralston back there now." And then AJ's come in, and he's been an improvement. He's been a better player than Juranovic, in my opinion. He's a better player than Juranovic. The way he's been sensational since he's come into Celtic. So
I think I just kicked Bobby off here. I've sent the link out again there, Bobby. Sorry about that. Juranovic was a prime example, aye.
Yeah. And even I know people disagree.
Sorry, Bobby. Sorry, bud.
I don't know what happened there. I think it was me, mate. I think.
Was it?
I was fanning about looking at the comments and all that, and then because I was like, no, when you're in the actual on the live studio, you need to go back into it to go into the live chat kind of thing. And I don't know. Before I knew,
I don't even try it, Bobby.
Can you not see a live chat at the right hand screen? I
can see whatever comment you pin. Yeah. Michael McKinstry's the one that's there the new, right? And then you can hit chat at the bottom. That's the back chat. You can hit comments. That's the comments that's on. But you need to actually join the chat to go back into the live chat. And I done that there and I get myself.
Oh, right.
That's why I didn't even try it, Bobby.
Oh, man, Evening, William. Thanks for joining us again, bud. Enjoy your decorating.
But like what you were saying, and what we were saying, Ter was saying, you were saying as well, with like this pushing the boat out, getting that kind of marquee signing. Is it got to the point now that that's just a pipe dream now? Because do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that. I mean, if we go out and sign this Polish defender 5 rising to 6 million, is that as good? Is that kind of as much money as we realistically spend in now, other than the odd Edward type deal that's a loan to buy or whatever? Because I just can't see how we. I just can't see how
we do actually kick it up a level.
Aye, I really can't.
Well, that Tetty, for me, he would be a kind of what you class a marquee sign. Aye,
he would be brilliant.
To get him on a free.
But do you think, lads, that Rodgers would have come back on the basis that he was on the basis that he was going to be spending only 5 and 6 million on a player?
No, I don't. I think you're right, and I think most Celtic fans thought the same thing. But it's the same thing you thought when he came the first time round. It was like, we're not going to get somebody of that calibre if he's not been promised whatever he wants.
But the one thing, reading from what he's saying, he seems to be looking at a clear out, first of all. From his comments, he looks like he's trying to basically get rid of the dead wood. That's reading between the lines from what he was saying. He's looking like offloading players and getting them out. And as we've said before, Mark, if you're doing that and they're going permanently, obviously, you're also getting rid of wages. You know, you might get a fee for them, you might not. You might get a small fee. But if a fella's on 15,000, 12,000, whatever it is a week, and he's not really giving much to the club, like, and he goes and you get 3 or 4 of them, all of a sudden there's 36, 48,000. Do you know what I mean?
Aye, definitely.
You know, and you get a guy, you get that Tete guy in, and all of a sudden you've got 50,000 that for 3 or 4 players that haven't contributed anything. And you can go, well, we can put that towards his with another 10 grand and give him 60 grand a week because he's a free. You're going to get him for free, like.
I'd really, really, really like to sign that guy. He's that sort of next level one that could really, really, really make a mark. He's the sort of one that for Europe, it's like, fuck, sorry, mind my language. It's like if they get him in their team, well, that's a bit of a player, and then it's like everybody's like gets their thing up about it, and it's like I really do think he's that kind of next level signing that we should be looking at. But
I do think there's a realistic chance he's getting him. I mean, I know there was all that talk. He was in Paris the other day, and Dermot Desmond's plane was in Paris at the same time, meant to be, and stuff like that. I don't know if that's just people Nerdy guys. I don't know how they can tell Dermot Desmond where Dermot Desmond's playing is, but
that can just be started and then that just grows legs into it, and before you know it, everybody's talking about it.
Apparently you can go in and track any plane in the world and see where it is.
Oh, I didn't know that, obviously, but aye.
But I don't. Without getting into it, how the fuck did they not catch that Epstein a bit quicker then if they could tell where his plane was? Do you know what I mean? Celtic. I mean, it's what is it? MCELT. That's the call sign for Dermot Desmond's private plane, which I didn't know he Twitter the other day. You know this part, but I would that would be some signing.
But what I would say, Mark, as well is if Celtic are in negotiations with him, or they have chatted to him or spoken to him, and they are seriously considering him, I hope it's not something that's overly that he's met. You know, because as soon as he meets with Celtic and it's out in open air, all of a sudden it seems nearly like a dead fish in the water. Sharks just start to circle, and all of a sudden, they're interested. We should be interested. I know, like.
But the Sharks already know what the situation was going to be with him, Terns.
Oh, I know that. But when Celtic,
if Celtic are still involved in the chance of getting him, which I only think there is a chance yet, simply because Brendan Rodgers took him to Leicester, so he knows him. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
aye. I'd actually seen that the guy Tete. I don't know if you've seen the link that we had with the other Brazilian boy Ferreira or something. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
I wouldn't touch him with a barge pole.
But see, the thing is, if you look into that a wee bit, it was something I read earlier on. It says that Brendan Rodgers has really good relationships with Tete's agency, who are also the agency of Ferreira. So whether that's just a case of we're interested in Tete, so they went, we'll just make that story up as well. Do you know what I mean?
Bobby, the guy's hardly kicked a ball in 2 years. He spent the last 2 years injured.
I know.
Obviously, you kind of go and do a wee bit of snooping and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? And
they've missed these games for the Grêmio B. I know. I thought.
According to that transfer market, he's missing the majority of this season, but I think it was a hamstring injury. And the majority of last season, it was either a muscle injury and then just not in squad. He's hardly kicked a ball for 2 years. I can't see Celtic being interested in that.
I think that's just a case of what I was saying there. His agency's the same agency as Tete, and they've just said, right, well, let's just make this up while we're going along here. Do you know what I mean?
But he'd hardly pass the medical anyway, Mark.
I probably. I mean, we'll see. According to transfer market, he only came back for this hamstring injury 3 weeks ago. He played 1 minute in a game, and fair dues. He's meant to have. I think he got an assist in that 1 minute. 18 minutes in the next game, and then the game for I think it was Thursday. I think it was maybe Tuesday or something like that. The data wasn't available yet. He's played up to the other night. I don't know what he's played. He's played 19 minutes of football this season.
They're having a good record in South Americans now. Let's be fair about it. Like, you know, if you go back to the famous Brazilian Rafael Schneitz or whatever, and he's been fairly literally his surname says it all. Like, and in fairness, as I said, my opinion on that Bernabe, I don't think he's up to the level either. So that you know, and if a fella hasn't played football for 2 years.
I think he'll be better under Rodgers, Taylor. I said that when we were talking. I think Bernabe's more a kind of Rodgers. I mean, Taylor was doing brilliant with that inverted fullback role and stuff like that. But I think the way Rodgers likes his players, I think Bernabe is the kind of attacking fullback would suit him better.
But were they not doing inverted fullbacks the other day?
That maybe just horses for course. I mean, according to was it Paul or what? Was it your turn said that he's kind of switched between the two when he was at Leicester?
Maybe I don't know. It's
just a modern into another one of these modern things. I mean, it took Paul about 3 months to explain it for it actually sink into what it actually meant to me. Evening, Kev. Thanks very much for coming in, mate.
I think what happened was when the ship was starting to sink with Rodgers at Leicester, he started tinkering with things, and he kind of trialled the inverted fullbacks. But I don't think it's. I've heard people say no, but he has used it. I think he was kind of trying to get a result for somewhere, and he was switching things about a wee bit, and he maybe done it for 2 or 3 games. But I don't think it's going to be something that we'll see. And I think, to be honest with you, it's no Taylor bashing, but I think he struggled in a natural wing back position yesterday. He seemed to be stuck between what he done under Ange and what he's been told under. I said that in the live chat. I thought he looks as if he's stuck between do I do this or do I do that? You actually seen him coming inside a few times, but then it's as if, oh fuck, I'm meant to be out here. And it's, I don't know. I just hope he doesn't go back the way now.
He's no kind of good and he's kind of natural way you back to the natural, which comes natural to him. He's still got half his mind still want to play the way Ange wanted him to play.
People sometimes don't understand that as well, Mark. It's like you've left back's a position of its own. A wing back's a position of its own, and an inverted full back's a totally. The three different positions. Like the way that you play them. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like a left back stays back, a left wing back up and down, and inverted drops inside. Like so, do you know what I mean? I don't know. I just hope Taylor doesn't start to regress again because, I don't know. You can't really pan somebody after one friendly, but he looked to me a bit of a shock yesterday for him. Do you know what I mean?
But even just a wee bit rusty as well.
I do think as well though, Bobby, having Kobayashi beside him didn't help him. I mean, he was a horror show. I mean, I thought a nightmare like.
I've made my things clear on him for day one when he came in last year, and I know obviously he maybe only started 2 or 3, maybe 4 of the kind of later games in the season. Before that, I think maybe if Carter Vickers was injured or Starfield was injured, they had a couple of wee cameos here and there. He's rotten, and he's just never ever going to be up to the standard that we need. And I know that's horrible to rule him out, but he is shocking. Do you know what I mean? Everything about him.
But you have to rule him out, Bobby, in the sense of like last year when Vickers got injured or near the end of the time, like this, they played Iwata centre back rather than playing Kobayashi centre back. Kobayashi is a centre back. To me, Iwata is a defensive midfielder. I know some fellas have said, he did play centre back, but when you've got a genuine centre back and you're not even playing him ahead of a defensive midfielder, that should be writing on the wall for you straight away. Like
the thing that worries me about Kobayashi mostly is he's a decent size, right? He's about 6. He is a bit bigger. He's about 6 foot. He looks as if he thinks he's a bit of a player when he's on the ball, but he can't jump, and he's so weak. Like he just gets brushed off the ball, and he's honestly he gives me the fear. Like we can't be hanging our hats on donkeys like that. No chance.
It's like, see the big number 5 for that Japanese team yesterday.
Yeah.
I looked him up, but I think he was 30, 31 or something. But he was a far, far better player than Kobayashi is.
Aye. But the big blonde headed guy.
No, is he Brazilian? Is it Eduardo something or something?
No, there was a big one. I know he was playing the kind of blonde on top. That was quite a big brute, I know. But I've kind of had my Philly like Asian players now, because I mean 5 Japanese players and 3 Koreans we're going to have. I think we need to stop on that now.
But what happens if the majority of them are called back for a game? Like,
well, the Asia Cup's on this year, isn't it? The Asia Cup's on in January.
Do you know what happens when they're all called back? Like all of a sudden because if say you've got, as you said, say 7 or 8 or 9 guys, and you've got 5 of them that generally start within reason, all of a sudden like you could have, like, that's nearly half your first team gone. Like,
well, if you
Celtic have gone too top heavy in one area. I'd rather see the recruitment now from the European side of football.
Aye,
it's
just for me. It's like Hatate, he's been a big hit. Kyogo been a big hit. Maeda can be hot and cold, but when he's really good, he's really good. Kobayashi, rotten. Ideguchi obviously hasn't kicked the ball, he's been injured and stuff. And then we've got Yang, and then the other big centre defence guy, central mid guy. But I mean, they don't all work out. I know that's the thing. You know what I mean? It's like there's two of the 5 Japanese didn't work out. So who's to say that the 3 Koreans will work out? Do you know what I mean? I think all come good, but I don't know. I just think we've maybe kind of maxed out on that market now. Do you know what I mean?
I fully agree with you there, though, to be fair.
We've been screaming out for a goalkeeper, and yet suddenly Man United find a goalkeeper for that neck of the woods. It's good enough for them.
That they've been scouting since he was 17 or something, supposedly.
But I mean, we keep talking about it as well. We've got to keep an eye on the homegrown rule for Europe.
Oh no, that's where your Welshies and stuff end up still keeping a part of the Celtic squad. By the way, your James Forrest, your Welshies. Do you know what I mean? They stay purely because of that kind of. I know you can throw in a few of the young boys as well to pump the numbers up.
But if you need these numbers, you know, that's the thing about it. If you end up needing to play these players, you're fucking up shit creek, basically, isn't it?
Well,
yeah, they're not getting any game time.
No,
they're getting no game time at all. Like,
no. What I was thinking as well is the likes of. Do you think that now we've got a central defence options is basically Starfelt, Scales, or Welsh, or Kobayashi? Can you imagine we were getting into the Champions League qualifiers and it'd be like deja vu on all the other seasons that we've been getting unprepared?
But I mean, see if we did have qualifiers, do you know, I think we'd have been a bit further along with everything, even the amount of friendlies we're playing, trying to get fitness up and stuff like that.
I know, but you think about it, Mark, man. How like if you're talking about, say, if we're talking, say 10 years of Champions League qualifying, didn't they qualify about 7 or 8 of them at one point?
That's on Peter Lowell for me. That's on him. But if, see, what I mean is, like, we brought Rodgers back. If we did have Champions League qualifiers to play, surely he'd be like, well, I want the players I want in by the time these are started. I'm no there's no point in even having a look at your proposals and stuff like that.
Put it this way, right? Say if we're talking, say, the big Polish boy, that's been a Rodgers, right? Because he did, somebody was saying that he did play against Leicester in Europe, right, for his team. So there's always a chance that maybe Rodgers has spotted him then.
He's got the eye.
But for me, none of the other signings that are in it that have been signed so far, Rodgers has got to okay them, yes, but I don't think he's had a hand in any of these signings.
No,
do you know what I mean?
That's the Celtic, but that's what we've spoken about 100 times, Bobby.
No.
You've got to sign players, not just because the manager wants them. Do you know what I mean? You've got to sign players and think, well, right, I don't think it's going to happen. He's only in the door. I'm not starting an argument about it. But what happens if Chelsea come in for Rodgers in 6 months, 18 months' time?
That's the big
I mean, I totally agree. I said that earlier on. I think these guys, the Australian boy and that, and the kind of the Koreans and that, for me, this is like the Mark Lowell, the Celtic football department is making these decisions to sign these players, because they're not maybe getting signed the new for Rodgers. They're maybe getting signed for next season and the seasons after that. I mean, Rodgers said he says he'll be here for 3 years. I mean, these players, they're all young boys. They could be here for Celtics want them maybe here for 5 years. By the time they progress, they're worth multi-millions. And do you know what I mean? That kind of way.
It's not an unusual thing. I know what you're saying. It's not a kind of unusual thing for there to be a football department that deals with the scouting, then goes to the manager and says, right, there's 10 players, pick maybe 2 or 3 out of that, or look at the videos and tell us what ones you like. Because that's how all the big clubs work. But up until Ange came in, we didn't have that sort of structure even there. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know how we signed players before Ange came in, and we get the sports science, we get the proper scouts, we get a scouting team, and because before that we were like fucking back in the 80s, honestly.
It was up. I mean, look, for many times we've spoke about it, terms Peter Lowell's relationship with Dudu Dahan.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Colin Kazim Richards and Carlton Cole, or not Carlton Cole, he wasn't with him, but do you get what I mean? They take all these signings, and I mean all that down to the Champions League. So we missed on, Bobby. That's all for me. All lies at Lowell's door, because he wasn't. Whoever the manager was, he wasn't backing them to try and progress Celtic in Europe. Well, I mean, you imagine people. I don't know why to start arguing about Peter Lowell again and that, but you imagine how. When Rangers were down and struggling in the lower divisions and trying to catch up with us, can you imagine we were getting the Champions League year in and year out? Imagine we get the champion, even out of that 9 in a row. Imagine we get Champions League group stages out of 7 of them. Think of the money. Do you get what I mean?
I know,
and for me, I said this at the time. for me, it was a dereliction of duty on Peter Lawwell's part.
It was a gamble.
Even Terence looking at it for like a big, massive business point of view. You're meant to be there to maximise profit and stuff like that. And he wasn't. He wasn't doing his utmost to do that for years.
No, but there was always the Celtic way of, okay, they won't spend any great money. If they qualify for the Champions League, the manager will get money. If they don't qualify for Champions League, likelihood is the better player might get sold to basically balance the book, so to speak. And and then when Celtic don't qualify, it was like a lot of loan players coming in or stuff like that. But it was never a case of, as I say, speculate to accumulate. It was never that. They were never willing to go, we're going to get the players in early, we'll get them bedded in, we'll qualify for Champions League. The problem was back then, with Rangers been down the lower divisions and gone into a whole lot, Celtic's idea was, well, we'll have another crack next year if we don't qualify this year, because we're going to win the league. And we'll have another crack, and we'll have another crack. But they weren't willing to. The Ivan Toney one's the prime example. He was at the door, he was in Celtic, and they wanted John McGinn. Lawwell apparently it was no, it's $1 million less, and then there was no, it's 6.5 million or whatever it was, 5.5 million or whatever. He's like, no, it's 4.5, and he was like, no, and eventually man's gone. And John McGinn's gone. The Italian guy who's in Glasgow Airport told, get back on the plane and go back to your club, because it was, these are all little things like that. I mean, Rodgers was famous when, was it the fullback who played for Leicester? Is it Castagna or something like that?
Timothy Castagna, what a player he is.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, Rodgers wanted him at Celtic, and at the time I think it might have been about 7 or 8 million.
I think they were maybe talking 8 or 9 million, but either way, go and bloody get him in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but if he comes in and you have like the sell-ons and all the bits and pieces, and he has two great seasons with Celtic, he's probably going to the Premier League for 25 million.
Easily.
Do you know, it's just Celtic weren't willing to take any risk whatsoever, because their notion was, like you keep said before, Mark, is the other crowd are gone out of it. We don't really have to do much to win the league. And you know what? We'll take a chance. We might qualify. If we qualify 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4, that seemed to be the mentality that was coming out of Celtic at the time.
How many times did they go?
We weren't even making
a... Sorry, Mark.
I was just going to say to Terence, I mean, we weren't even making a decent go at the Europa League or nothing.
No.
Do you know what I mean? See, like that, what you're saying there, Terence, right? All right, we'll have another crack at Champions League, right? We didn't get into this year, but we'll strengthen a bit and try and get a run going in this Europa League. It was just, Europe was just been an afterthought to Celtic for years.
But Mark, you have to remember, as I said this a few times on the podcast and a couple of weeks ago, this is a club that have never spent more than 9 million on a player. What do they expect if you don't spend more than 9 million on a player in their history? Like this, they like, as I keep saying it, 9 million or 5 million or whatever you want to call it, 5 or 6 years ago is not 9 million or 5 million today. It's just not. It's just not. And the notion is, like, I've heard people going, oh, Celtic paid big money for Carter Vickers and Kyogo and Jota. They didn't.
No.
They paid 6.5 million. They paid 4.5 million. There's fellas midway down the table in the Champions League or the Championship that are probably paying 4.5 million for a player. You know, until Celtic start going, and like, you have to move with the times, like with the wages and the transfer fees. Like Kyogo or Carter Vickers for 6.5 million is proved to be a great buy. Jota was 6.5 million. Look at the return they've gotten him. Yes, I know he's gone to where he's gone, may not necessarily be the case. Edward was 9 million. Look at the return they got on him. You know, like, I mean, if Celtic want to keep gambling with the small monies, you're not always going to get a return in it. I mean, look at some of the players that were playing there yesterday. That, you know, they're struggling. Yeah,
4.5 million we released them.
Yeah, I know.
Even in Scotland. Thanks very much for coming in, mate. Nice to see you.
There's always a case, Mark, in fairness, that I get it, that a player mightn't always work out with a specific club. That happens with Barcash. I always famously remember Dennis Bergkamp with Inter Milan. It never worked for him. He was horrible over there. And he went to Arsenal, and he was literally probably one of the best players that's ever played in the Premier League. Oh, I get your point, but what I'm saying is, from Celtic's point of view, if they're willing to pay the few extra quid for the Jotas and the Carter Vickers and the Edwards, they get more value out of it. You know what I mean? Whereas trying to bringing in a Shane Duffy on loan or Toran or all these other guys, you know, Laxall, and I know he was a good player at the time, but all these other players are taking it's basically we'll throw a load of them and see which one sticks, like. You know, I don't think that's my opinion on it, you know?
It's like, right, see the boys we've signed so far, £2 million and that. They're obviously they're young players. One of them's coming out for Australia. He might not settle. He might just, do you know what I mean? All that. But at we're saying no matter how much you pay, there is a gamble. But it's still kind of, to a certain extent, it still kind of guarantees you a better quality player. Terence, you still need to make it work, but
it's probably less of a. It's in a sense, it's probably less of a gamble. I would say. You know, I mean,
the classic one as well. Just talking about Bergkamp. I mean, look at Chris Sutton at Chelsea.
Yeah.
And I know the English say took a step down to go and play for Celtic up in Scotland, but he got to a European final with Celtic and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Plus Chelsea weren't there any big sheiks down there at that point. Do you know what I mean?
No, they weren't. No.
They were kind of mid-table. Them and Man City used to be. I don't mean to sound rotten, but they were nothing clubs down there before.
I can mind Man City being in the 3rd division, Bobby.
No, I know. I'm playing at Main Road, and like that place was a dump. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, it's only. I've said, and Newcastle, they'll be the next ones as well. Do you know what I mean? Just because of the money and that. So it is with these bigger clubs.
I quite fancy. I quite see if that's the way football is, and obviously it's a monopoly down in England. If that's the way it is, then I would actually quite like to see Newcastle go and break all that up a wee bit.
Oh no!
Why no? Do you know what I mean? Man City are going to win that.
I hate Newcastle, man.
Year. I think Man City are.
You ever watch a Big Bang Theory on the telly? Can you imagine they made an episode? Imagine they made that in Newcastle. Imagine guys from Newcastle sitting talking about quantum string physics and stuff like that.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. The people for the place are as dumb as anything. Do you know what I mean? But, what I'm trying to say is the way it looks now in England, like Manchester City will probably set up to win that the next 4 or 5 years yet, because Man United nowhere near it. Liverpool, I don't know so much. I just don't think any of the other clubs are. I think Man City are light years ahead of the rest of the teams in that league now. And it would just be quite refreshing to maybe see somebody else just spoil the party a wee bit. That's all. Do you know what I mean?
That kind of way. It would be good to see them kind of get it stuck in their face, kind of thing.
That's all. I mean. Newcastle, like as a city, and the people there are unbearable. But
no, why I don't like Newcastle, because of David Ginola.
Aye. Well, obviously, did he not agree to come to us? And then
aye.
That was
Ferguson
what
a player he was, team.
I remember
think that's
my
what
old
put
man
me off.
Aye.
That's what put me off Newcastle. And I never liked Shearer. I never liked him.
No.
And probably I can't even mind the Gaza playing with Newcastle as well.
I was only really young when
Baker Grove. I hated Baker Grove. And that Anton Decking that. I just man, just don't even start me about Newcastle, man.
You're showing your age now.
I was only really young when Ginola was. I remember it was my dad was going on. I was only really young, and my dad said, "By the way, if Celtic sign him, what a player!" And he was going on about it, because it was supposedly another one of these ones that was pretty much right down the road, signing wise, and then I'm going to go there. Do you know what I mean? It's another.
The rumour is, Bobby, that it was Fergus McCann saying, "Yeah, but Kenny, what's he going to be like at Fir Hill on a Tuesday night in the pouring rain?" And apparently that just put him straight off. Apparently the rumour is, anyway, that's the way they said it. Like how accurate it is, I don't know.
His hair would have looked even sexier.
Soaking wet.
Stood in the middle of Mary Hall with the rain pissing down on him. Was it L'Oreal he used to advertise?
L'Oreal, aye.
It's not even that. He came back to play. He played against Celtic, a friendly with Newcastle. I can mind he did, and I can mind us sitting there half cut out with our wig, giving him absolute dog's abuse or hair stuff and things like that. I get away from Newcastle, man. This is nearly as bad as Burnley.
I remember when we had Di Canio when I was a young boy as well. What a player he was as well. Do you know what I mean? And it was the same scenario with him. I think he was wanting quite the wage bump, and they come to a common ground, and he only ever played at Celtic for, was it one season?
He was only there for one season.
Cadetti, Van Hooijdonk, and Cadetti, Van Hooijdonk, Di Canio. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, that was some front three, and I think Andres Tom was still there. I know actually.
He was, yeah. He was a cracking player as well.
See, I was only a young boy, but that's.
Terence, can you see that on the screen there, bud?
Yeah.
You've seen your sound a wee bit loud.
Is that better?
I don't know. You sound fine to me. Just if it sounds too loud to the chat.
I'll turn it down. Don't worry.
Andy Tom's a cracking player. He really was.
That was my
honestly. See, Andy Tom's probably one of the most kind of like technically gifted players I've seen at Celtic.
Right.
It was
initial Celtic teams I seen. You know what I mean? I was born in '89, so they were all there like 95, 96, 97. So I was only really young, and that was my initial kind of. Don't get me wrong, we weren't winning anything because of it. When it was during the 90s when they were fucking winning a lot, do you know what I mean? But that was the first kind of Celtic teams that I'd seen myself. Do you know what I mean?
I think Andy, I might be wrong here, but just off the top of my head, I'm sure that Andy Tom was one of the very few, like maybe he might have been the first like East German player to get a cap for the kind of United. Germany wants to amalgamate it again in that.
Right.
He's good enough anyway.
I actually get interviewed outside Celtic Park for German TV about Andy Tom one night. I don't know if they had a clue. I didn't know what they were saying in bad German.
They definitely didn't have a clue what you were saying anyway.
The only German I knew came through Wiedersehen, pet. Do you know what I mean? I was stumped, and they just asked me. I tried to put on the polite voice and all that. Do you know what I mean? But this week German video company and that, I thought they were at the wind up. Do you know what I mean? I still never get paid for it right enough.
I think a Glaswegian like stroke Lanarkshire accent actually sounds worse if you try to be polite.
Aye, it's like that James English.
Oh, fuck! Don't go. You don't want to talk about Newcastle. I don't want to talk about him because he's a bell end, isn't he?
But it's just you can tell that he's like me. You sit there and you're concentrating on trying to talk polite. I mean, I've been open about this. I didn't know what I wanted to do a podcast, but one of the things was I'm not confident. I'm not a very good talker and that. Do you know what I mean? And you can tell he's trying just so hard to talk polite in the way, like it's like when you see these guys on, even Scottish guys on soap operas and that, there's this fake accent that's kind of trying to talk a bit English in that.
I even think you notice it sometimes when you've got like a Scottish football player that's played up in Scottish League for years, and then they moved into the Premier League, and you hear an interview with them and they sound different. You think, what sort of accent is that he's got now? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, Joey Barton trying to talk French.
Oh. One of the best ones is the Steve McLaren does the Dutch one. Have you seen that one?
Aye.
Oh, now that's funny. Do you know what I mean? That's...
You're just making a complete idiot yourself, really, ain't you?
They say to him more, it's like Steve McLaren. Steve McLaren, it is, when he was at 20, when he was at FC 20, and the lad to him, like the season coming up, how do you feel? And he says, maybe we have Champions League to come. You're like, come on, you know, that's not your accent. Do you know what I mean? It's like, just be yourself. Do you know what I mean? Fucking embarrassing. All right.
Hey, Mark, is there any, or do either of the two of you know, is there any truth in the rumour of the Tierney link, or is that just pie in the sky stuff?
I think there might be something in it.
Would you take him back?
I don't know, to be honest. I'd take him, but right, but I'm sure I've said this on the forum and that he's got 2 years to go in his deal. I would take him now if we could get even give him I don't know, a loan fee, £2 or £3 million this year, we take him back with an option to buy next summer for 10 million when he's only got a year left in his deal. See if he's only coming in for a year on as a loan player, no point in that. No point whatsoever.
No.
People say, oh, but Newcastle are bidding 30, Arsenal will sell to him. But you can't force a player to go where they don't want to go.
No.
A team from Saudi Arabia could bid 100 million for Tierney. They got to force him to go there. If Tierney wants to come to Celtic, it just becomes a kind of Celtic and Arsenal need to come to a kind of financial arrangement. They gave us 25 million for him, right? Is it 15% of a future sale or something? So you've got to take that off what they sell if they sell for 50 million or whatever.
They've probably not the way that you know yourself, like the way that transfer fees are paid as well. They've probably not even paid the 25 million yet. Going on,
That'll probably.
You know what I mean?
No, wait, did that not get announced that they paid that as a one-off, Bobby, the stock exchange?
I don't know, but just, you know what I mean, for talking's sake, you get is 5 million, 5 million, 5 million, like over 4 or 5 years. Do you know what I mean? But I think you might be right that they were trying to go, I think they were trying to do half and half at the time. And Celtic, I think, did say, well, it needs to be like the majority or nothing. Do you know what I mean? I think they did pay more than.
Who's that? Who are you talking? Martin, who's that? He's talking about the 6'3" defensive mid that's about to sign.
The big Korean boy.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about him at all. I can't really do you know what I mean? You can't really comment. You watch stuff on YouTube about them,
but he's obviously, Mark, he's obviously coming in with the intention of being a first team player because, like, if you read any of the comments, his thing is, I want to play Premier League or the German League, and I'm going to be the best player that Celtic have. And probably the best player in the league. Certainly the best player in Celtic, he said, if not the best player in the league. So he's not coming over with the intention of you'll be involved next year. But I'm just reading between the lines. His notion is, well, I'm coming over for a starting place.
Is that him that said he's coming here to and here I've not got a problem with a player saying it. Is that him that said he was coming here to move? I'm going to England next and stuff like that.
And he said he was going to be the best player in either Celtic or the best player in the league. He said something along those lines with as well.
I've seen something about him when we were first linked to him. It says Celtic set to sign K-League's Rodgers. Like that's the style of plays. Like I think he's about 6'3" of that as well as the boys were saying. I think he might even be bigger than that. And he says that he's obviously they can come out with anything they want, but it says he's kind of games similar to like a Rodri type player. But whether that's the case or no,
seems like a kind of confident enough guy anyway. If he's coming out with stuff like that, do you know what I mean?
But what I'm saying, Mark, is whatever about the two younger lads, the two Korean lads for me that are obviously, I know not compared like with football, but they're playing first team football. I can't see them coming over with the notion that they're not going to play football this year, if you know what I'm saying.
Aye.
The Norwegian lad, yes, I understand, and the Australian lad, maybe there's more bedding in for them. But definitely, looking at the interview from that Korean lad, his whole thing was like, I'm reading between the lines, I'm comfortably going to be the best player in Celtic, probably the best player in the league. That's what he was coming out with, like. I can't see him coming out. Yeah.
I think Yang said the same, that you're better off getting a player coming in and saying for the off that they're happy to be here, they're going to do their best while they're here, but the ultimate goal was to go to the Premier League. As Mark says, I really don't have an issue with that because it shows ambition, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, fully agree. I don't have a problem with that either. You know what I mean? And listen, hopefully they are that good.
I don't want a player coming in and it's I've wanted to play for Celtic my full career.
Aye.
I mean, I don't see me leaving here then a year down the line. I couldn't.
Yeah, I don't even want the manager saying that, Mark or Bobby.
Don't you start with this again? Have you know backing a Brendan train yet?
No.
Is it still hurting?
Yeah.
Have you cyber cuddle?
All right, cheers, bud. Cheers. Spurs get relegated as well.
Are you back?
But Bobby,
are you back on the Brendan train?
I wasn't too keen on it when the rumours first came up and that, but once it was like we knew it was happening, well, we couldn't. There's nothing we could do about it. And when you break it down, we've appointed a top class coach, which is what we wanted to replace Ange. And I don't care what anybody says. For me, Ange could down there win the Premier League and become the best manager in the world for the next couple of years, whatever. But for me, the new Brendan Rodgers is a better manager and better coach than Ange. I think we've took a step up.
But his record will prove that. The other fella, the Spurs manager guy, sure, he was over he was in Japan and in Australia. He, with the greatest respect to the current Celtic manager Rodgers, he was in the Premier League and Championship. You know what I mean? He was at a much higher level than the Spurs guy was ever at.
And I said it even for the very first day he came in, and everybody was worried about him after the Hearts game. Everybody was like, "Oh, we made a pure blunder here," and the team went on, and the next time he was a miracle worker, won his trophies, won his leagues. You can't fault him. The football we watched was brilliant to watch the majority of the times. Bobby keeps cutting off, but I said that many times. We were lucky to have Ange, but Ange was very, very lucky to have Celtic.
He was luckier than we were.
Aye. Because if it wasn't for Celtic, Ange would still probably be plodding about there in Japan and stuff like that. Maybe the chance he was at AEK Athens or something that were do you know what I mean? But I think we've upgraded, and that's no sour grapes on Ange. Ange's done his job and done brilliant for us. But I think we've took a step up.
Well, the biggest thing, Mark, is Rodgers' name would be known. The Spurs manager wouldn't have been known. Barring you really, really have a serious, in-depth knowledge of football. I wouldn't have ever heard of him before, but I would have heard of Rodgers.
When he first came in, when I seen him in that, I can vaguely remember him managing Australia. Vaguely, and do you know what it was, Terence? Because he kind of looked like my dad. Mind, I sent you pictures.
You said that a few times,
Aye. And that's what came into my head when I saw him. And he signed for Celtic. I thought, and it said he was Australia manager. I can vaguely mind him managing Australia, but that was I couldn't have told you his name. See if you showed me a picture of him, I couldn't have said, "Oh, that's Ange Postecoglou." Do you know what I mean? If you showed me a picture, like, "Oh, I can't really mind him."
I know people have said there are bits and pieces about it, but it's like what you said, and I said it before. Like, he was 55 coming to Celtic. He wasn't 35. He'd been around the block, so, I mean...
Hold on, first. No bother, Bobby. Thanks very much for coming on anyway, bud. Brilliant. Cheers, Bobby. If anybody else wants to come on, just click that link, by the way. All you need is a phone. That's all it is, just talking into a phone.
Yeah, that's it.
But that was what you're saying there, Terence. That's one of the things I thought about Ange. I thought, he's at a big club like Celtic. He's 55. Well, what is he now? 57, coming on 58. But I didn't think he would jump at the first big chance. I thought, because it would at his age, a few years in management, and then we used to talk about it, offer him a director of football role or something like that.
Yeah, that was the link. But the thing I would have said, I think we said it as well, Mark, is with obviously Rodgers doing what he done. I have no doubt that if 3 months before the finals, the end of the season, if the same offer had come to the Spurs manager and he was told it's now or never, he'd have gone as well. I think it fell at the right time, in the sense that it was literally the end of this. Like I said to you when we were talking about it, I had a feeling he was going, and then I said it definitely. Once you saw the embrace, if you want to call it, with Jota after coming off the pitch, that to me was the players already knew he was gone. That wasn't that wasn't a hug of just winning the treble. That was a hug of like, thanks for everything. Do you know what I mean? You just knew. And even when it came to the celebrations, he didn't get involved in any of the celebrations. He didn't do any of the norm that he would have done for the leagues and the League Cup and any of these other things that he'd won before. He stayed right in the peripheries of everything. He stayed way out of the way. You just knew he was gone. Like, you just knew he was gone. But look, he's gone. So we should be talking about it anyway in this podcast anyway, doesn't it? No, it's
a Celtic podcast.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Let's not talk about the Spurs manager anymore.
No.
So when's the next friendly?
They're playing in is it 2 days? Is it Saturday morning or something? I think is it Saturday or something like that. They're playing that. Is it Osaka or something like that? Like, yeah. Like it, I mean, I mean, it's obviously a case that you just basically do it for fitness, because if this crowd are supposed to be as good, if not better, than Marinos, I don't know whether that's true or not. But judging on Celtic, it's a case of we need to just work on this as fitness. But the thing I would like to know, Mark, is if I was young Dane Murray, and I've seen Bosman Law linked with Portsmouth and someone else today as well. But like, those two guys must be sitting there going like, what have I done wrong here? Like, what have I done wrong? They're not getting a sniff. Like, I mean, that young Murray lad, I know it was backs to the doors, came in the European match and had a fine game. A fine game, you know what I mean? But he hasn't got a sniff of a game anywhere, and he doesn't look like he's ever going to get a sniff of a game.
Just seems to be the same old, doesn't it, when it comes to youth?
Yeah, but they brought Bosman Law in as one of the next best things. A big unit of a man. Both lads are 6+ comfortable. And Bosman Law looks a big unit as well. Something that we've cried out for, that saying at Celtic side that are a little bit small. And he has never got a game. To my knowledge, he's come on in bit part games and stuff like that. But you haven't gone to him, right, there's the League Cup. Go in centre back with Carter Vickers or Starfelt, and we'll see what you're like. Like, if you can't throw Bosman Law, or as I said before, a young Summers or Rocco Vata into a League Cup match and go, as I said, my opinion would be start one or two of them in a League Cup game and say, you're going to play the League Cup the whole way through. Regardless if we get to the final or we get knocked out in the semi-final or we get knocked out whenever, but you're going to play all that. That's the only way you're going to judge these young guys. You can't expect a guy to go, right, jump on there and show me what you can do. There's 88 minutes gone in the game. Like, they might even kick a ball. Like, they might even kick a ball in whatever 7 or 8 or 10 minutes that's left in the game. You know, it's not fair. Whereas I'd rather them go League Cup, right? Young Summers, you're really showing me. I'd like to look you. You're going to start every game in the League Cup the way they used to do it with the keeper. Say, right, there was always the talk that Seagrass was going to play all the cup games. Obviously, with the knock, maybe that's something different. But that's what I would think, Mark. That you go to one or two of them, go, I'm going to start you two guys in the League Cup every match, regardless if they draw, if they're away Rangers in the second match, then so be it. Because you find out how good these guys are. You're not going to find out with 5 or 10 minutes of a game. Like, it's not fair on them, in my opinion.
I thought it was weird as well that he brought Seagrass on yesterday. I mean, the guy's meant to be trying to get released to go and move to Australia with his wife or girlfriend or whatever it is.
And he's openly said it.
Aye, so why is he getting game time? Not even before Bain, but just before anybody. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, listen, I hear you. I mean, it's a strange one. If a guy looks like he's going for whatever reasons, personal reasons, he just doesn't want to be there, whatever. Fair enough, but I don't even see the point in him actually being there.
No,
even in the trip, I don't, because if he's going to be gone in a month's time, where's your setup? Like, if Joe Hart's 1 and who's 2 and who's 3, and you know.
I mean, even looking at this way, Tierney, see if they're sitting there in Japan now, and see if the guys want to move to Australia. He's closer to there than he will be if they drag him back here and then release him.
Oh yeah. You could just cut your ties there and then and say, off you go, good luck.
Martin's saying Low's a proposed loan deal. Be a good step for the development. Well, see, that I don't mind that. I think I've said that a million times, Terence. I think a player becoming like a first team player for Celtic, it's probably them spending a bit of time out on loan.
Well, yeah, and I don't have a problem with that.
Level and stuff like that, but I think a lot of it, I mean, even look back, I mean, David Beckham went to Preston and loan and stuff like that, and it kind of toughened him up. I don't think there's anything wrong sending players down to, like, probably be class like lower level teams to kind of toughen them up a bit and get used to playing week in, week out, getting training with the first team, getting kicked about with these kind of older pros and stuff like that.
But neither do I, Mark. But Bosman Law came from Watford, and he was apparently a standout. And even the likes of Troy Deeney was saying how good he was, and he was involved in the first team and the whole lot. I don't have any issue with that. But where I have a problem for these guys and him and the likes of the Dane Murrays is when you're playing guys who aren't centre backs at centre back in matches. Even matches that like you can't tell me the last 4 or 5 games when the league was done that if they seriously are considering Bosman Law or Dane Murray or whichever young lad it was, why aren't they putting them in? Like they're putting a defensive midfielder in centre back rather than giving, even at the time, Kobayashi a game or giving Bosman Law a game. They put a guy in there who's probably 5'8", and there's 2 guys 6 foot plus that are centre backs that aren't getting. It'd be like me if I was playing rugby and I was a scrum half and I was thereabouts in the team and the first guy got injured if I wasn't first choice and they started bringing a winger in to play scrum half. I'd be going, I clearly don't have any future here, like. You know, and that's what I would think if I was in a certain position and a Bosman Law or Dane Murray or whatever position it is, and you're bringing in a guy that's not that position, that's not his first choice position. You know, you'd have to question your own future at the place, like at the club, like, you know.
You had Rebel saying as well, how can they step up playing in the 5th tier of Scottish football all year? That's one of the worst things in Scottish football, Rebel. And I thought it was baffling that Celtic refused to take a kind of move out of the like the reserve league and stuck with this lowland league rubbish. I don't really understand that at all.
Sure, Mark, that makes no sense. As I said, we were not being anyway remotely sexist or anything towards it. But if you're running the ladies, the SPL league, and it's running very, very well, you can see the fixtures, you can see the whole lot. How can they not run a reserve league? And just basically, if Celtic are, as I said, if Celtic are away to Motherwell this weekend, the reserves are away to Motherwell this weekend. If Celtic are at home to Livingston, then the reserves are home to Livingston, assuming the teams in question all have a B team, and the likelihood is they will have a B team. You know, and players will learn more playing in a reserve league than they will playing against, lads who have to work 5 days a week and are playing a match on a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever it is. You know, it's not. You can't expect a young lad to go from the lowland league, like as the commentator has said there, to then all of a sudden go, right, look, we've a big league match, and a major player is injured, and you're next up, and geez, look, by the way, we might have a Europa League match on Thursday night as well or something. You know, you're right. You're going, hold on a minute. I was playing against lads who were doing 9-to-5 jobs there last week, and now you want me to step up and play against whoever it is, standard player? It's not possible, like.
But there is a reserve league. It's just Celtic don't take part in it now.
Is there a reserve league got back in action? I didn't think there was, Mark, to be honest.
No,
I thought they'd abandoned it, the SPFL or whatever, the SPA.
No, I'm sure there is a reserve league. But Celtic and Rangers and that refused to. They decided to just keep doing this.
But it was scrapped, wasn't it, Mark? The reserve league had been scrapped, though, hadn't it?
Aye, I'm sure it had.
Yeah, I don't know if there is a reserve league there and Celtic aren't involved in it. It just boggles the mind, to be honest.
I might be reading that rank tiers. Maybe it is actually shut down altogether now.
I thought it was gone, Mark. I genuinely thought it was gone, and it'll be gone for a number of seasons now. Now, lads can correct me if I'm wrong on certainly if anyone knows in the live chat, they can certainly let us know. But it's madness, like.
The reserve league for 22-23 season Football Scotland has got Hibs sitting at the top yet.
Okay.
Motherwell, Dundee United, Kilmarnock, Dundee, Queen's Park, Livingston, Ayr, Queen of the South and Hamilton. That's what caught my attention the other day. I'm sure I read that Accies are the current champions here.
Yeah, well,
is there a reserve league?
That's a no-brainer then, that if Celtic go into it themselves, regardless of anyone else, if that's the makeup of the teams that are in it, you're playing against fully fledged professionals. You know, whether it's guys that are on academy contracts or full-time contracts or players coming back from injuries, as I said before. That story of a guy, like imagine a young guy coming back from injury. If Carter Vickers was coming back from injury and he's able to play 2 or 3 reserve leagues to get himself back up to speed, match fitness. And all of a sudden, there's a young guy there coming through the ranks who Celtic like, and he's a good prospect. And next week, he's got Carter Vickers beside him for 2 games. Imagine how much he's going to learn from Carter Vickers in 2 games.
Aye. As you said as well, when we've spoken about it, it's like you're at least playing against, right? Obviously, if you're playing against Aki's reserves and stuff like that, you're expecting Celtic to be at a whole different level. But you're still playing against guys that are spending their days trying to become professional players, the same as your young guys are.
Yeah,
you're not playing against guys, as you say, they're out welding or plastering or running shops or whatever during the day, training a couple of times a week. Do you know what I mean? It's just it's a complete nonsense.
And even so much so, Mark, without being disparaging to the Lowland League, even the style, you're going to have technically better players you're playing against. I imagine the Lowland League and down there. I'm not saying it's a kick and rush game or anything like that, but it's a big difference if you've got a reserve league and you're going to have technically better players, in my opinion, playing in that, because hence they're professional footballers. And so it has to be better all round for any player. If the Celtic are looking at, if they have a reserve league and they can play in that, they're playing in the Lowland League where it could be, kicking and lumping the ball up and down the field. I don't know, but I don't know. It's a no-brainer to me.
Something needs to, and I've said this for years, and I can get back to even Scotland getting to the World Youth Cup final years ago and stuff like that. In Scotland, there seems to be there's a missing link between being a good young player and becoming a good top first team player. You can get back over the years and talk about all these brilliant young players that Scotland had at youth level and stuff like that, but very, very few of them actually got to the kind of top level that people expected them to. And that's where it became, there was no step up between like your under 21s and your first team. That's where we lost a lot of kind of good players.
But the prime example, as I mentioned there, Mark, recently is, and it will always be the benchmark, is look at Celtic, look at Rangers, look how many Scottish players run those sides. Not many. And they would have, every young lad growing up in Glasgow would be Celtic or Rangers, and there'd be Celtic or Rangers, and if you're a Rangers young lad growing up and Celtic come for you, you'd probably sign for them, and vice versa. If you're a Celtic lad growing up and Rangers come for you and Celtic don't, you'd probably sign for Rangers. So, but what I'm saying is, like, they have the pick of everyone there. But look how many comes through. Like, as I said, look at the current Celtic team. You've got McGregor. You've got McGregor who starts. Taylor. That's all you can think of. You know what I mean? I know people might say there's Ralston and there's Welch and there's James Forrest. James Forrest would be another one. He's probably just coming to the end of his career. But you're looking at maybe possibly 2 starters at Celtic, and across the other side, I can't think of any Scottish guys on their side. Honestly, I genuinely can't. Like, do you know?
But we seem to Celtic. We don't produce much players that kind of make it into your first team, but we do produce a lot of players that go on and have good careers with other teams.
Oh, you do. The most, like, if you go through the other sides, they'd have from both teams. You'd hear he was a youth at Rangers, or he was a youth at Celtic, or whatever. You'd have a ton. I respect that. I'm not disparaging any of those players like that at all. I'm just meaning, like, you'd assume that you'd be able to get more. Like, put it like this: there's a lot less chance of them happening now than it would have been, say, 15 or 20 years ago.
But what's that down to? Is that down to the coaching? Or is it down to...
I think it's a level of... There's a level of ignorance as well, Mark. There's a level of snobbery as well. Do you know what I mean? It's a level of snob. Like, if you have an 18-year-old Scottish lad or a 20-year-old Scottish lad and a 20-year-old Portuguese, just for argument's sake, which would most people think, if you were going for, who should you go for? 20-year-old Portuguese.
Aye. It's a fancy name and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, and that's what it is.
It needs to be an exceptional talent to get a chance in the Celtic team.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Like, and like, you look at young Plata, you look at that young lad Summers, even the lad who played the right back. Is it Macpherson? Is that the right pronunciation?
Aye,
You know,
aye.
but certainly Summers and Vata look like seriously tidy players, very, very good players, to be fair. But are they going to get a chance? Who knows? Because, like you said before, Mark, would Celtic rather start with Vata on the wing, or bring in a Portuguese winger, or bring in a Croatian winger, or bring in something? Then likelihood it go.
What would the fans say in terms of Celtic Yacht and says we're not replacing them, we're just going to promote that up to first team?
There'd be holy war.
Aye.
There'd be holy war. But at the same time, we got Jota to an extent from Benfica. I don't know, was he playing regularly with Benfica? I don't think he was.
No, he wasn't.
No, but he was a young lad with Benfica. But it's that whole we're signing the young lad from Benfica. Do you know what I mean? It's that whole idea that he's from Benfica, or he's from, if we got a fella from the B team in Real Madrid or the B team in Barcelona, or you were getting a fella who's played for the last 3 or 4 seasons with Aberdeen and was a standout with Aberdeen, who would people think you should go for? I think the majority of people say that you should. That fella surely go for the lad from Barcelona. He's played a couple of games, but he's in their B team. You can't be buying a fella from Aberdeen. Sure, he's rubbish. No, I'm not disrespecting any Aberdeen player, but I just use an example.
It's a kind of snobbery, isn't it?
It is. There's as much as snobbery in Scotland about some Scottish players as there is a snobbery down in England about players in Celtic or Rangers, or because they'd be the main 2 clubs, so to speak.
Aye, that's a good analogy.
And and that's what it is. Unless you're a phenomenal talent to come through either side, either Celtic or Rangers, as a young guy, you have to be an absolute standout. And it's so hard for any young guy to break through. They have to be, but that's why I would say, without trying to go over the same point, I would be playing the likes of 1 or 2 of them in the League Cup and let them play the whole League Cup, and then you'll get a better judge. You'll give them proper games and seeing what they can or can't do.
But even in terms of there are games in the league that these young guys should be getting chances in. I don't mean fill the team with young players, but when we're playing kind of the lower level teams, we're talking about there, we'll put big Boss and Lowell in beside Carter Vickers today, because he'll learn from him. We're playing, I don't know, Inverness, Cali, Ross County, do you know what I mean? Something like that. We're playing Kilmarnock at home. Could Carter Vickers and Boss and Lowell do a job against Kilmarnock at Celtic Park?
Well, Mark, if they can't, or whichever lad it was, Vata or Summers or whoever it was, if they can't, and they're playing then they're getting a couple of games a season like that, and they can't do it, then you can go, okay, look, I'm not sure if this lad is up to the level, because you're in a team that's getting maybe 80% plus ball at home.
Aye.
If you've got 2 guys in there, either it's a Bosman Law and with Vickers, and you've got young Vata on the wing, or young Summers is playing, they should be comfortable in it. They should be not standing out, but you should see that they belong. Is the best way of putting it. Whereas if you see them and they've played a lot of League Cup games and they're playing a couple of league games and they're still struggling, and you're thinking, he's really not finding his feet here. You'd be kind of questioning it, going like, I don't know, I don't think this guy's up to the level. I just don't think he's up to the level. Like there's no difference, in my opinion, in giving those young guys a game than there is giving Burnaby a game, Kobayashi a game, any of these other guys a game. But sometimes it's looked at, he's playing in the B team with Celtic, can't really give him a game. Well, you can give him a game. You've flown a guy half around the world that no one has known, and you're happy for him to play first team football. Without even
his game and stuff like that.
He's a foreign name. He's a fancy name. He's after coming from Argentina. He's after coming from Japan. He's after that doesn't mean anything. He could be a fella from 5 miles up the road from Celtic, and he could be a diehard Rangers fan his whole life. And he might have got the opportunity with them, and Celtic might give him the opportunity, and he could be sensational. There's plenty of proof of that down the line. Do you know what I mean? Of years of there's been plenty of Celtic players that might have been of a Rangers persuasion that have gone on to be fantastic players for Celtic. You know.
But as well, the Celtic support, they need to see when these young guys they come into the team. They've got to remember that they're young players. They're going to make mistakes. Do you know what I mean? Even the new. I know this Carfield takes absolute dog's abuse in that, but it's like, right, what if we played Big Boss and Lowell yesterday and he'd made that mistake Starfield had? Right away, that would have been him never good enough for Celtic. Let him go, sell him, give him a free transfer, but chase him down London Road, whatever. Do you know what? Yeah. Starfield at his level shouldn't be making a mistake like that. See a young player like Boss and Lowell that making that, you can for me, I can forgive that as long as I'm not doing it every week.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same. I was just going to say the same thing. Aye. I don't have a problem with any player making a mistake once they've learned from the mistake.
Aye, I mean every player gets a wee kind of brain fart, and young players are going to get them a lot more and make stupid mistakes and stupid passes and stuff like that. But you've got to kind of forgive them. But Celtic fans, they're one of the most unforgiving kind of support when it comes to stuff like that.
But see, where the difference also comes from, Mark, again, and please, anyone can correct me if they think I'm wrong and I don't have a problem with it. But where I see the difference is, Mark, as well, is a lot of the younger generation in particular, and especially in the last 10, 12 years, Celtic fans have been spoiled. And we've thankfully been spoiled with success in Scotland. Whereas if that was in the 90s and that, you'd be happier because people expect Celtic to win everything now. Whereas back then if Celtic lost, yes, it was still a real disappointment and it was annoying and the whole lot. But if you saw something trying to be developed, you maybe were a bit more patient with it. I don't think the patience is there as much today.
I mean, there'll be Celtic fans out there will be raging if you don't win a treble next year.
Oh yeah, and that to me makes no sense.
But you're talking about just the kind of success has spoiled them, kind of thing. I know what you're getting at. I mean, they had one treble up to when Martin O'Neill came into the club. Like, I know.
They've had a very Celtic era. Look, they've had a real kind of golden period, so to speak, in the club with massive success. In Scotland, yes, not necessarily out of Scotland, but in Scotland. But you have to remember, there's a lot of young people that are probably following Celtic that have never seen them, or rarely seen them probably lose a league once.
Aye.
Whereas like older generations will understand that in a sense, you have to give people a chance. Like look at Kieran Tierney, look at Callum McGregor. These guys weren't getting a chance before, like, and they were brought into the team and given a chance and proved themselves to be very good players. And look at Callum McGregor now; he's a Celtic icon. Tierney would have been the same if he had stayed. I think in some people's eyes he probably still is. But these are young guys that were given a chance, and you can't expect a guy to come in 90 minutes and everyone just go, "Oh my God, this guy's sensational." That rarely happens. It rarely happens because the young guys coming in. It's probably if he's from Scotland, and certainly if he's from Glasgow, it's his dream. It's the one thing he's always wanted to do, to play first team football for Celtic. His nerves are going to be through the roof. He's going to, and obviously sometimes, and he's trying so hard to make an impression.
Aye, a lot of young players try. That seems to be a kind of trapped into it.
Yeah, they're just trying too hard because they go into the notion as well, Mark, like we do, that they're going, "Oh, if I have a bad game here, I'm gone now. I won't get another game again." Which is a terrible way for a young player to go into a game, thinking that if I have a bad game here, I'm gone. That I'm not going to get another game.
My reputation's in the gutter with the support, and then my mum's seen stuff on Twitter, and my girlfriend's seen stuff on Twitter. I'm shite, and Celtic should be getting rid of me and stuff like that.
Yeah. Whereas for argument's sake, it's nearly like you've built. You have to build up. What's the right word I can think of? But you have to build up kind of nearly, I don't know, points in a sense, like if Carter Vickers makes a mistake, There's not going to be that much criticism towards Carter Vickers.
No, Starfelt makes the same mistake and he's getting crucified.
Yeah, Starfelt makes the same mistake. He's getting hammered. You know what I mean? Well, a young lad coming in playing said, so young Summer starts the game and he's playing centre forward or up forward and he misses two or three great chances. Oh, he's hammered. Kyogo does the same. No problem.
Aye, that is exactly it. That's spot on terms. That really is. And
You know, so it's
not
very,
just
very hard. Like,
it's not really a Celtic thing, really.
no, it's a football thing.
Aye,
It's a sport thing, to be honest, Mark. It's in sport in general. Like, it doesn't matter what sport it is. A young guy coming on has to be nearly twice as good as the guy who's been there already before him to kind of half stake a claim. And he can't make any mistakes because if he makes a mistake, he's lacerated. Whereas the player in his position, as I said, if they've built up the credentials and the whole lot, they can make the same. They have to do that. They can make that mistake 10 times before there's a criticism of them.
aye.
In certain individuals, you know what I mean? You know, I mean, like, I love Callum McGregor. We all do, and we've said it here loads of times. But if a young guy was in Callum McGregor's position in the games when McGregor was in the holding role in the Champions League and made the same mistakes, they'd be crying for him to be fired out of the team.
Aye, 1,000,000%.
You know, and the same if a young keeper was in goals the other day and made that mistake that Joe Hart made. He's no good. He shouldn't be there. He's no good. He's rubbish. He's rubbish. But Joe Hart and them, they have the reputation. They've built it up over time that they can have that. And they go, yeah, but he normally makes a great. He doesn't normally do that, but he make a great mistake. Or McGregor, he's playing out of position. Right. It's not his fault, so to speak. You know,
I seen somebody saying they were talking about that, like the mistake with Joe Hart, and what about the 3 other saves he done in the game?
But this is my point. You know.
See, that was worse than a schoolboy error. That with Joe Hart yesterday.
Obviously, it was terrible. It was shocking.
Aye, there is no explanation whatsoever for what he done. And to say what about the saves he made, but what if that was a Champions League game, right? And that was against a team that we were supposedly expected to beat, right?
Say Copenhagen or someone like that, for argument's sake.
Aye, say it was Copenhagen, right? And that was their one chance of the game. And Hart done that. And the next thing we're 1-0 done. That could be the difference between, do you know what I mean? That could be the difference between 3 points in the Champions League are qualifying for the next phase of the Champions League, you're getting down to the Europa League.
We like, yeah, and you're 100% Mark, 100% right, Mark. But as I said, if you flip the coin, if for argument's sake, and I'm only using him because he's young lad. If that there was a load of injuries and players, blah blah, and that was young Toby lad. No, but I'm just saying if it was him or a Hazard or someone like that had gone in goals for that time and done the same mistake, they'd be lacerated. Absolutely. And even if they made the saves after it as a result, it would still only go back to that one mistake.
What if that time to Ibrox?
Oh yeah.
And that that time to Ibrox and we ended up losing 1-0 at Ibrox. So it's all right saying, he done this after it and he done that. But it is all hypothetical stuff. And again, it's just a pre-season friendly. But that yesterday was absolutely shocking that a goalkeeper at Joe Hart's level, a kid wouldn't make that mistake.
No, it was like you're talking 2 minutes into the game or something like that, you know, where it's a base and in fairness, I'm sure people, I haven't seen anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if people were blaming Starfelt for it. Because if Starfelt, in fairness, shielded the defender. You know, he let the ball roll into Hart and it was, listen, it's a bread and butter thing that you just pick it up, and I don't know what he did, but he just did everything but hold on to the ball. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's just so hard for any of these young lads to break into that side. It's they can't make a mistake. They can't put a foot wrong, or they're going to be lacerated, and it's basically a case of no, he's not good enough. No, he should be gone. He should be gone.
And we've spoke about it 100 times on here, but look at the guys like Morrison away to Bayern Munich. I know he's away to England and loan or something like that, maybe this window,
Brighton is it?
but I mean, he's still good enough to be in Bayern Munich's books. Get a good education, and whether he plays for Bayern Munich's first team, we'll never know, right? Chances are he probably won't, unless it is absolutely exceptional. But he'll come away from Bayern Munich a better player than he would have if he was just hung about with Celtic, kicking his heels doing in this Lowland League and garbage like that too.
Oh, yes, Mark, I agree with you. That's why I, without going back over the same point again, that's why I think it's imperative that Celtic play some of these young guys. That if Brendan Rodgers thinks that young Summers, young Vata, that young McPherson, if that's the right pronunciation again, the right back, if they think that these are the guys, that the 2 or 3 guys that they think, yeah, these are kind of my standout guys. These are the guys that I think they have a real chance. Then they have to play them. They have to play them in some game. And I don't mean coming on for the 5 minutes. I do mean start them in, not all of them together, but start them in a League Cup, or start them, as you said, in a league game at home to, if Celtic are at home to Dundee or Kilmarnock or someone like that. Give them the game. So just go to the young lad and say, right, look, I'm going to play you in the League Cup. I'm going to play you in the League Cup. I'm going to play you in the Scottish Cup. And you're all going to start 5 league games each at home. And that to me, you'll be able to get a good gauge on the player. Because if they like, realistically, Celtic should get to the, generally speaking, they get to the semi-final in the cup, in either of the cups, generally speaking. And if you could say to them, you're going to have at least 5 or 6 games with Celtic, and I'd be going, yeah, you play 3 games away, 3 games at home, something like that, or whatever, 4 games at home and 2 games away, and you can play them away at a Motherwell game. You can play them away at a Aberdeen game. I'm not saying Hearts or Ibrox or something like that. But you'll see what they're like, and let them cut their teeth and see how good these guys are. You're not going to learn anything about these guys in the Lowland League, like. If
guys like Bawz and stuff like that, I mean, let's face it, if they can't hold their own against your likes of Motherwell or St Johnstone or St Mirren or something like that at Celtic Park,
they're not good enough.
No.
I mean, they're not.
Our players at that age, like your kind of 18, 19 and 20-year-olds, they should be capable of stepping up and playing against the kind of lower league teams in Scotland. In my opinion, Mark, when they step up, St Johnstone stuff, if they can't step up and play against them, they shouldn't be there. They're no making
not good enough. No. And see, as well too, for me, Mark, they should be able to step up and not look out of place. That would be my key thing. They shouldn't look out of place. If young Summers is right, you're starting next week and it's at home to Motherwell, he shouldn't look out of place in that team. But Bosman Law shouldn't look out of place in the team. Young Vata shouldn't look out of place in the team.
But to the same extent, terms, big bossing or that, they could make a mistake like Starfelt done yesterday. But you could forgive that. Do you know what I mean? I would forgive that.
Oh, you have to, Mark.
What we're talking about, he's a young guy, he's learning, having a brain fart, just even a panic as the ball came to him, and what am I going to do here? You can forgive that with a young player like that.
Of course you can, but you have once they learn from it, Mark. Listen, there isn't anyone that hasn't made a mistake, but the key is if you learn from the mistake. If Bosman Law finds himself, or young Summers or young Vata finds himself in the same position again, that they don't repeat the mistake.
Aye.
If they learn from the mistake, you go, yeah, he's made a mistake, but he's learned from it. There isn't one player on the pitch that hasn't made a mistake. Like Kyogo misses open goals, Callum McGregor misses tackles, Starfelt misses tackles, misses headers, Joe Hart lets in sitters. Every player on the pitch has made mistakes, but they have a reputation that they can get away with a mistake, whereas the young lads can't. But I fully agree with you, Mark. If a Bosman Law is playing centre back and the ball's coming in and he thinks someone's covering behind him and they're not, and he makes an error and there's a goal or a save or whatever, yeah, but does he learn from it? If the same thing happens 20 minutes later, does he then cut that ball out? Does he then make the tackle? Does he then make the clearance? That's what I'd be looking at to go, yeah, he does. He's learning from it. You know?
It must be really, really tough for managers like at Celtic, even Rangers, I know, without even getting down and looking at the pub league and stuff like that, to try and like bleed young players.
Oh, yeah, it must be.
I mean, and it's like Celtic fans all would demand success, Terence, but I mean, for years when I was younger, we were just delighted to win the league. But now it is, we're demanding trebles, we win every trophy, we're getting runs in Europe. And if you're getting that, I don't know, is that kind of pressure hindering the Celtic manager?
Massively hindering it, Mark. Massively.
You know what I mean?
Like,
I talk about Lukaku's and stuff like that. I don't pay as much attention to him now as I used to, but like clubs like Lukaku's, Motherwell, Hibs, they can bring in young players and bleed them through and stuff like that. Whereas Celtic and to a certain extent Rangers, they can't. It's got to work there and then. It's got to be the new. They're no forward planning.
But that for me, Mark, comes down to the manager. The manager needs to go. If the manager comes out and he's, for argument's sake, and he's talking, and there's a discussion they do the new press conferences or whatever, and they're talking, and there's a League Cup, and he's coming up to say, the League Cup, and if someone mentions anything about the young lads, well, young Summers is going to start all the League Cup games for us as long as we're in it. We really like this guy. We're really impressed with this guy. We need people, he needs time. He's real quality. He's not the finished product, but he's getting there. But he's going to start every League Cup game that we have, and we're going to be playing him in a few league games. That for me is a manager backing the player straight away. And I know some fans will still go, oh, well, I don't know about him, blah, blah, blah. But in their head, if Celtic are playing a League Cup game and Young Summer starts and they're home to Falkirk, and he's a good game and he scores 2 goals, and you'll always have someone go, it was only Falkirk. But how does that builds so much confidence in that young man? It's not funny. And then he knows himself. The next draw, okay, we're drawing away against Aberdeen. Oh my God, I'm playing the next game against Aberdeen away in the quarter-final, for argument's sake. He's buzzing for this. Rather than him going, I'm coming on for 5 minutes against Falkirk, where Celtic are 5-0 up since the first half. Like, I'm coming on with 5 minutes to go or something like that. I think if the manager openly came out and said something like that, I don't know whether that's Rodgers. If Rodgers does that,
philosophy, but it is weird. But see about that again, Terence. I mean, we're a couple of idiots sitting here talking on the internet about this stuff. You wonder why managers do think that young players are. What you got to produce? Oh, right, that's 87 minutes, right? There, Vata, go and get stripped off for putting you on.
Yeah, and that's what
people. What does the manager? What do the fans expect? But what does the manager actually expect these young guys to do when he's doing that?
You meant pull a young guy from the stand.
Why did you fling on Big Boss and Lowell yesterday?
Right, exactly. What do you mean to throw a young lad from the stand on for the last 3 minutes ago? Look, have a run around there.
Aye.
I'm not being facetious or smart about it, but
no, but that's a fair enough point. What are you going to do for 3 minutes of a game, 4 or 5 minutes at the end of a game?
But for me,
it's even if they do pop up with a goal, it's meaningless. Where's Jack Aitchison? Where's Jack Aitchison? Mind he came on the last game of the season against Motherwell.
Yeah, and scored, with his first touch nearly.
So, and where's he now?
Oh, yeah, I fully agree with you, Mark. But that's why I'm saying is, I'd like a manager to come out and go, and nearly openly say, yeah, look, in the League Cup game, certainly there's 1 or 2 of the young lads are going to get a game. Because if you don't think young Summers is going to make it, and if you don't think young Vat is going to make it, and if you don't think that right back McPherson lad is going to make it, then cut them loose, let them go. Let them go to another club where they're going to get a first team football. I think looking at I think
they would get first team football or their team's terms. That's the thing about it, isn't it? And
that's they would.
The kind of golfing class. I mean, see, like Big Boss and Lowell or Rudy Vata, Rocco Vata, they would probably walk into the St Johnstone team or the Motherwell team or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
I'll be honest, Mark, and people mightn't agree with me. I would think bar Celtic and Rangers, they'd be involved in any of the other sides. They may not always start, but they'd certainly be involved in all the other sides. And I include Hearts, where
And
a semi-decent side.
Aberdeen and stuff. He'd probably be involved to a lot more than they would be at Celtic, you know.
Oh yeah, they'd start a load of games.
I mean, we've just spoke about it. I know Rodgers, he's not really been the kind of manager to give much youth a chances. Is that going to change? Is he being told by Celtic that part of the model is telling us, look, we're signing all these young players. You maybe not want them, Brendan, but these are for Celtic. If you're not going to be here in 3 years or 4 years, this is Celtic signings.
Well, they have to be, Mark. They have to be. That has to be the case, because, would you be confident if next week there was a match and there was a bit of an issue on the wings and young Vatter or young Summers started? Would you be confident in them playing? Well, I would. From the way I've watched these young guys, it's not like they've been involved in the first team set up for the last 3 months. They've been involved in this first team for probably the last maybe year and a half, if not longer. Do you know what I mean? So I would be confident looking at those two in particular, because I think young Summers looks a fine player, as does young Vata. But they have to be given the chance. They have to be given the chance to because for me I would turn around and go, well, right, no one was going to give Callum McGregor a chance. Look at Callum McGregor. I'm not saying they're going to be a Callum McGregor before anyone says anything, but look at Callum McGregor. Look at Kieran Tierney. None of those two guys would have got a game if Ronnie Daly didn't go, look, I think you're good enough to play for Celtic.
But the thing again, tell us, how do you know they'll no be if you don't give them that chance?
You'll never know, Mark. You have to give them a chance, and that's what I'm saying is, if they were able to play them in the League Cup or a Scottish Cup or whatever way they wanted to break it up, and say to them, look, like there's 38 league games. Do you know what I mean? They're surely comfortably able to play at start 6 league games. If they're having a howler, you have subs. You can take them off, like.
Aye.
You know, there isn't a player that has played for Celtic on that pitch involved in the first team squad that hasn't had a howler, so they won't be alone. Like, you know, from goalkeeper centre forward, they've all had shockers. Like,
because it is becoming to a kind of extent. It's like, well, what returns are we getting off of this? If we're not producing players that are going to move into the first team, and any kind of half-decent players we're getting seem to be getting poached with other teams and across Europe. I mean, again, Morrison going to Bayern Munich and stuff like that. Bayern Munich's not signing anybody at any level that they think's just take a risk on him. They know there's a player in there that they can get the player out of, and they'll either give the player in their team or they'll make money out of.
Yeah.
And Celtic just, I don't know, it's just... Is the academy becoming a waste of time?
Well,
a waste of money.
It has to become a waste of money, Mark, if you're not willing to take the chance. Like every Celtic player that's on that pitch, they have to play a first game somewhere in their career. Everyone has to be given a chance at some stage. And everyone is going to make mistakes. And as I said, they have to be given a reasonable amount. If those Celtic players, the young guys that I spoke about, were told, you're going to start 6 league games this season, young Vata, you're going to play every Scottish Cup, young Summers, you're going to play every League Cup. You're going to get a situation where you're going to be able to see a guy starting a game, seeing what he's like, seeing what his makeup is, seeing what his temperament is like, and watching him grow, Mark. And watching him grow. And if you give a young guy like that, and he starts, for argument's sake, the bones of 12 games, 13 games in the season between League and Cup, you're going to get a very, very good idea of whether he's a yay or a nay.
Well, they're Jota, right? Who was it? He was with Benfica.
Yeah.
Benfica, right? Celtic brought him in, gave him a platform. Look where he is now. Do you not think there's other... I'm not saying it specifically like they're sitting there, we should have done, but would teams not be sitting there looking at Jota and saying, I think even down to Benfica, just think if we gave him 2 years in our first team and we were selling him to that Saudi team, we'd have got a hell of a lot more than 25 million.
Well, yeah, but Edward is another one. Sure, Edward is in PSG Academy. You know? So, like, I mean, like, do you think young Summers looks like a good player and young Vata looks like a good player?
Oh, definitely.
So this is my point. They deserve the same chance that look. Abad is a prime example. Abada wasn't supposed to start the first team at all. He was supposed to be coming in as a kind of an academy style, you know,
Aye,
lead him in.
backup player. Aye,
Yeah,
aye.
a backup. And look at him. He stormed the league the first season. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, this guy's only 19." You know, there's sometimes a narrative that he's only 18 or he's only this or something like that. Listen, if you're good enough, you're old enough.
Well, Terence, be honest, Steve, first season, I actually thought Abada was better than Jota.
Oh, he was miles better. He was unbelievable. He's like a third striker because he always came in from the right wing, the back post, and scored numerous goals. You know what I mean? But that's why I'm saying I would love to see those two lads in particular that appear to me that have been there. Just give them proper game time and give them a chance. Give them a chance to see, and if it works out, you never know. Celtic might have one or two gems in their hand that all of a sudden in 2 or 3 years' time is worth the 20 million. You know what I mean? But you got to give it a chance.
And if it doesn't work out, Terence, I mean, there's Stephen Welsh. I mean, I used to wind Mike up about that, future Celtic captain Stevie Welsh and stuff like that, right? But I mean, if their teams are naturally willing to pay £3 million for the likes of Stephen Welsh, see what you're saying. You throw these players into the mix and see if they candidate for Celtic, but we'll at least be able to sell them on.
Yeah, exactly.
See Celtic decided to sell, I don't know, just for talking sake. If Celtic decided to sell Rocco Vata, right, what would they get now? £500,000.
Maybe, yeah.
See if he's played 15, 20 games and he's not quite cutting it for Celtic. He might cut it, but he's not going to get his chance at Celtic. Somebody will give £2 million for him.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But this is what I'm saying, Mark. You know what I mean? They have to. I mean, they have to be given. They have to be given the chance. They have to be given the chance to prove their worth and to prove. Am I good enough? Am I good enough to make it at Celtic, or am I not? Is it a level too far for me? From what I've seen, the two boys certainly look like they comfortably do. You know, and I really do hope that they are given the chance that they deserve, because I think it's been a long time since Celtic have had guys coming through from the first team that look like, or from the underage sides that look like they can seriously become a part of the squad as well.
Stake a claim kind of thing, be good enough to actually stake a claim regularly for a first team start. Yeah,
it's been a long time since that's been the case, but these two boys genuinely look like they have it, in my opinion.
But that's what Celtic should be doing, Terence. We've spoke about that on every podcast. We probably talk about it, and people going about we should be kind of following the Ajax model of stuff and things like that. I mean, people are only watching like Ajax and their Champions League games and that, but Ajax are still breeding players, and their young players still come in and make mistakes. And I mean, all the highlight reels on YouTube, any player in the world, do you know what I mean? Disney. I've said this before. It's like Jimmy Johnson. I never seen Jimmy Johnson playing live, but you can't tell me that Jimmy Johnson beat his man every single time he had the ball.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
George Best. You can't tell me George Best just ran amok constantly for 90 minutes every second. Do you know what I mean? You're watching videos of people now. There's probably times that Jimmy Johnson tried to beat a man and fell on his backside.
Yeah.
That's I know. Do you know what I mean? It's part and parcel of just playing the game. As you said earlier, players always make mistakes.
Yeah, and that's it. But as I said, young guys have less. They have less in the bank that allows them, if they do make a mistake, that they've got cover. You know what I mean? But yes, look, time will tell. I just hope Rodgers does give those young guys a go.
Aye, I would like again. He came in and said that he spoke to Nicholson and Mark Well, and that he's well happy with the way the football department's getting ran. So I'm quite happy about that for a change. Do you know what I mean? And I'd like to think that Celtic have said to Rodgers, right, we'll buy you players, hopefully the big players that we're all hoping, looking for to take us up that step. But Brendan, we moving forward, we need to bring youth players and these young players into the squad and progress their career for our benefit, the club's benefit, so we can sell them for millions and that in years to come, and not just for
But you can't.
for the here and now.
Yeah, but you can't. But you can't also, Mark. From the manager side of it, you can't also preach that you're into youth and into developing youth and into all this, and not give a guy a chance. You can't say, oh yeah, look, I'm one of my big things now is I like to develop the youth and get players through the team and all this. You have to give them a chance if that's going to be a ceremony that you're going to be given. You gotta prove, you gotta follow your words and say like, yeah, okay.
Well, Ange said it as well, didn't he do much really, did he?
No, he didn't do a huge amount, to be fair.
And who knows? I mean, don't get us wrong. Maybe in 3 or 4 years now, terms we'll see the kind of benefits of stuff Ange has done. Do you know what I mean? Behind the scenes, he's maybe done tweaks to the coaching that's going to help that, and you'll see the progression of that in a few years' time. But we can't sit here and every Celtic fan goes on about it with model Marcelo and Ajax and stuff like that. And we can't say that when we're expecting to buy 20 million, 15, 12 million pound players for every position. If you're producing good quality young players, then your money can be spent to tweak that. Still there?
You there?
Aye. I thought that went.
I am. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, that's 9 o'clock.
Sorry about that.
We'll just wind that up then.
We will indeed.
You got anything else to finish up with?
No, I'm just glad Johnny Evans didn't sign. That's about it, really.
Oh, that was never going to happen, was it?
No, it wasn't. No, never. No chance. But I do hope. I would like. And the last point, I would like to see Celtic if the centre back is done deal, like Paul was saying. I'd still love to see them to move for that young lad. Is that Xavier, the Dutch fella? I would love to see them move for him as well.
Xavier Bayamba.
Yeah. I was going to leave that up to you.
No, I would go to do to pronounce it. Aye.
Because personally, I would like to see them if they could bring him in, and then for me,
Van Dijk looking into.
He is, yeah, but Kobayashi and the likes of Kobayashi and Welsh, and then for me would be surplus to requirements in my opinion. But that's just it. Like,
right, well, that's him. That's Brendan and Ange both know what they're doing now at Tottenham and Celtic, respectively, for turns then.
Yeah, Don and Dustin.
Thanks very much for coming on, Ter. Bobby as well. Thanks for coming on earlier. Everybody that joined the live chat, I hope you enjoyed it. The new guys, Red Scotland, another new guy, I forgot his name. Is it Phil something? I can't mind. Sorry, mate. Hope you enjoyed what we do. Everybody that listens back, we really appreciate it. Hit the like button, leave a comment. If you know how to leave a comment, and please subscribe if you haven't. Hail, good night, lads, and God bless.